Welcome back to Askewed Reviews. And today I actually have a viewer request, and it is for the 1994 film Airheads. Here is your trivia question for today, and it's actually a question that gets asked in the film. Who'd win in a wrestling match, Lemmy or God? The answer will be at the end of this episode. So, in the film Airheads, we meet three best friends, Chaz, Rex, and Pip, who are all part of a band called the Lone Rangers. Now, Chaz has been putting all of his time and effort into getting their music out to the public. He has met with multiple record executives, but they keep turning him down. And due to Chaz putting all of his time and effort into this, his girlfriend Kayla is now breaking up with him. So the boys end up having a bad idea as they break into their local radio station to see if they can get their music played. Once they realize this is not going to happen and security might be kicking them out soon, they come up with an even worse idea. They decide to take over the radio station and hold everyone there hostage. So, with absolutely no plan whatsoever, can the boys at the very least get their demo tape played on air so that their fans can realize that they are truly a rock band before the police can stop them? This movie was directed by Michael Lehman. It was, however, almost directed by Alexandra Rockwell. The role of Chaz was played by Brendan Fraser, but did you happen to know that it almost went to John Cusack? In fact, director Michael Lehman did not want Fraser as the character of Chaz. It was due to the fact that Adam Sandler went to Lehman's house and said that he would quit if Fraser wasn't cast. Sandler must have really saw something in Fraser due to the fact that this was a real gamble. He had no clout yet as he was still early on in his career and hadn't done things like Billy Madison or Happy Gilmore, and he actually hadn't worked with Fraser before. This movie would actually be the first time that Adam Sandler and Steve Buscemi would work together on a film. As you probably know, this definitely was not the last, as Sandler has had Buscemi show up in quite a few of his films. So there's a conversation I want to have when it comes to this film. I would never normally think of Steve Buscemi being an attractive person, but come on, doesn't everyone else agree with me that he looks pretty hot in this film? The role of Kayla is played by Amy Locane, but did you happen to know they originally offered it to Christina Applegate? When she turned it down, it was actually Fraser who suggested Locane as the two of them had worked together in the movie School Ties. The role of Ian is played by Joe Mantegna, but was originally offered to Dennis Miller. Pauly Shore actually tried to talk Brendan Fraser out of doing this film as he thought they were soon going to be working on Encino Man 2. When Fraser did end up going with this role, Shore tried to see if he could play the character of Carter that would eventually go to David Arquette. You at least have to wonder if the reason why Shore didn't get the role of Carter is because they may have found out that he tried to talk Fraser out of doing this film. There are actually quite a few well known actors that appear in this movie, including Michael McKean, Judd Nelson, Michael Richards, Reg E. Cathy, Marshall Bell, Chris Farley, and there's even two Ghostbusters, where you have Ernie Hudson and Harold Ramis both appearing. Director and voice actor Mike Judge also has a vocal appearance in this film, as there's a phone call to the radio station that is him actually doing the voices of Beavis and Butthead. Longtime Adam Sandler collaborator Alan Covert also has a very small role as a police officer in this film. The song by the Lone Rangers in the film that ends up being a hit, called Degenerated, is actually a song by the 1980s punk group Reagan Youth. Near the beginning of the film, we see a band called the Sons of Thunder. The group that appears in the film was a real band known as the Galactic Cowboys. There is a scene later on in the movie where we get to see another band that gets to use their actual name, and this was Rob Zombie's original band, White Zombie. Now, they initially reached out to the band Cannibal Corpse to do this cameo, but because they were appearing in the movie Ace Ventura Pet Detective, that didn't end up happening. Now, after not getting Cannibal Corpse and before going with White Zombie, they also reached out to the bands Metallica and Testament, both of which turned it down. Here's something you may have never noticed, but in the radio station, there is a poster for Spinal Tap. Now, this is a mock band that also performed as a real band that Michael McKean, who appears in this film, was a part of. Here's something else you may not know, but the end scene that takes place in the prison was an homage to two things. the film The Blues Brothers, and Johnny Cash's live album From Prison. The KPPX radio station in the film was located at Fox Plaza. This also served as Nakatomi Plaza in the movie Die Hard, which there are some small references to that film in this one. Airheads was the final film to use the 20th Century Fox logo that was created in 1981. Comedy Central is actually one of the biggest reasons why this film still has such a big following, as it was constantly played throughout the 90s on their channel. Myself personally may have never heard of this film, or at least wouldn't have heard about it for quite some time if they didn't show it on there. This movie was entirely filmed in California. So when it comes to the film Airheads, I really enjoy this movie and I have for quite some time. It's got a great story, it's a fun little adventure, and there are some very comedic moments. So I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 5. Now, if you enjoyed this film, other movies I recommend checking out are Empire Records, Wayne's World, PCU, and Mallrats. Now it's time to answer the trivia question from the beginning of this episode. Who'd win in a wrestling match, Lemmy or God? So at least the answer to this question in the film is it's a trick question. Lemmy is God. Now, in case you don't know, who they're referencing in this is Lemmy from the band Motorhead, who is considered a rock god by many people. Now, what's really funny about this being in the film is that Lemmy actually does have a brief cameo in the movie, and this is when they're talking about how even being a nerd, you can grow up to be an amazing person, and he talks about being the editor at his school newspaper, which apparently was in fact true. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Askewed Reviews. And if there's ever any films that you'd like to see get a trivia review, feel free to mention them in the comments.